Mini Jake, the tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Shane and I, as well as Jonathan, we're back for Survivor What If, pondering the question in this vast multiverse, what would happen if you changed one thing in Survivor history? How would it affect things? We're on All-Stars, and we might as well make it interesting. So we know that Vanuatu and Palau are the next 2 seasons after All-Stars, but what if you took Vanuatu and Palau and made them right after Pearl Islands and then did All-Stars for season 10? How would that change things? How would that change the cast? What are your guys' thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd probably have a pretty big effect because you're going to have some new people that 100% are thrown in there.
Oh,
we've already seen some returnees from these seasons come back later. Mm-hmm. And if you do it like sooner after these seasons, there's people that probably could have been in contention. And, you know, some people are going to have to get cut. So like Amber might not be there anymore. Boston Rob might not be there anymore. We might not get our little love story happening.
Oops. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really interesting to think about. So I know, Jonathan, you and I talked about this.
Yeah.
You had a list that you came up with and talked with me about. So
I was going crazy with this list because after we did the actual All-Stars video, I really kind of just went full rabbit hole in this what if world if they actually did All-Stars for 10 and then Vanuatu would have been 8 and Palau would have been 9 with the results being exactly the same cast for those seasons, the same people that did well and did poorly. But the only difference is now for 10 would be the actual All-Stars and who would take those spots. And I feel I was going crazy with the list, and I was trying to, because our 2025 Survivor fan brains would look at that list, and we would come up with reasons on why people would be picked and why people wouldn't be picked. But I was trying to think of like the mindset of a producer in like late 2004, who were right, what contestants were riding high at that time, who would actually be probably considered. What would the theme be, you know, like, and I know I showed you multiple pictures of the list and I was narrowing this down. It's like, this person would be a good idea, but they probably wouldn't pick them because if they were denied the actual All-Star season, they probably wouldn't be considered for this fictional one as well. Mm-hmm. Like Fair Play, for example, like he was expected to be on the actual All-Stars, but they didn't pick him. So what would change the producer's mind a year later? Like nothing would probably really change except the consideration of like new contestants like Tom Westman and like Stephanie, who if the results played out exactly the same, I guarantee those two would be the 2 Palau reps going into All-Stars. And whereas Vanuatu, they'd probably be like, maybe, you know, Jeff didn't really like Chris and maybe they would just pick someone like Amy to come back from that season to rep.
Yeah, so Jeff Probst hated Chris Doherty, he very much, and especially because Jeff and Julie Berry dated, and Jeff hated Julie getting screwed over by Chris. Mm-hmm. So Chris is absolutely not getting the call back. No. I do think Tom and Stephanie are definite, they're going to get the call. I don't know that Tom is going to do it right after. I think Stephanie is 100% doing it.
Yeah, because she's proven to do it, because it's like, oh, she did that with Guatemala right afterwards. Yeah, so like, what would be stopping her from being like, no, like I wouldn't do it. I would come back and do it again.
Right. Yeah.
Tom, maybe, because like when Micronesia was supposed to be All Stars 2, he supposedly said no. And obviously we know he said yes for Heroes and Villains. I wonder if he wanted a certain caliber of players there, and if like no All-Star season had happened, and you're going to be playing with Lex, Hatch,
Cody.
Yeah, I feel like he would say yes.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's put both Tom and Stephanie. I think Amy is probably likely from Vanuatu, the most likely. Eliza is definitely an option. I think
Twyla's an option.
Yeah.
However, it depends on how many of like the older women they want, because it seems like Helen Glover and T-Bird were not in the mix for the original All-Stars because they already had Kathy and Tina.
And Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're already looking at in this fictional world, if it's only like a year later and we have these results, and if in real time certain contestants turn down the option, then they would probably turn down the option in this fictional world as well. And if you already have better options like Tom and Stephanie and Amy to replace some of the actual All-Stars that made it, then that would probably deepen the pool a little bit. I know for a fact that now that in this fictional world, Sandra would say yes, because she was just sick. She couldn't do the actual one. So imagine if she has a healing time and now she's better. And if they have enough winners, like 3 guys and 3 gals, I think they would take her over Jenna Maraska, like any day of the week. And then I think Tina would stay.
I also think Jenna Maraska might say no because her mom would have passed.
Yeah, at that time too. Yeah, with a year difference. And maybe I think they would, if they're doing this winner thing where they want to have 3 guy winners, 3 girl winners, Sandra would probably definitely get the call. Tina would definitely get the call. And I think they would probably go back to Vesepia and try to actually reconsider her. Because I don't think she said no. I think she was considered, right? They just didn't ask her.
I think like Vesepia's just never gotten the call, and for whatever reason, Vesepia, from what I've heard, has always wanted to play again.
Well, there you go. It's a short window of time too. And for the guys, you have Richard's definitely going to come back, Ethan's definitely going to come back, and then they would convince Tom to do it.
Yeah.
So right now we're having this list is looking like really good of people. Like this is like the actual All-Stars that like should have happened.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to narrow down the list, but I had my reasons for coming up with this, but from Borneo, we have Richard, Jenna, and Rudy. They would probably make the cut. From Australia, we have Tina, Colby, and Jerry. Jerry was a last minute because I completely forgot about Jerry. But Jake, you and me talked about it. I was like, oh no, like take Alicia out of there and put Jerry in. Like
Jerry's a must-have, yeah.
Jerry's must-have. I had Ethan and Lex.
Get rid of Big Tom.
We have to cut Big Tom because there's only room for like 2 Toms at this point.
Right.
For Marquesas, I think Boston Rob would still make the cut because there's just something charming about him that they're like, we got to give this guy a second chance with Vesepia, and I think Kathy would still make it for the whole difference.
If they get Vesepia, though, do you think they go with Sean Rector as well instead of Boston Rob? Because I've heard he was in the running.
They were considering him, but he was ultimately cut. So I'm assuming that if it's only 2003, 2004, they might change some things with the cast, but I think they would probably still stay true to like what they originally wanted to intend. From Thailand, I think Xian would still make it. I think they would still go with her in there. For Amazon, I think Rob C would be the only person that would make the cut from that season. Pearl Islands,
he made Dina, but she also sort of fits the older woman.
Yeah, I would love Dina, but sadly, they forgot about Dina.
And from the end to kind of conclude my fictional list, from Pearl Islands, now that she's had time to heal, I think Sandra would absolutely do it. Plus Rupert, come on, like they're gonna do it. And then fictional Vanuatu, I think Amy would be the selection because she was the queen bee of that season running the show. And then finally for Palau, I think they would take Tom and Stephanie to round out this.
Right. Do you think Ian gets considered? Because I feel
I put him on my list, but I just feel like because we were thinking about Bobby John It was Bobby John, Big Tom, and Rudy. Who do you think out of those three they would pick as the final guy?
Rudy.
And Rudy, because it's 2004, it's post 9/11. America's very patriotic. They're going to want to have someone like Rudy. They're going to want to have someone like Tom from the New York firefighter there. They're going to want to have this narrative. We've talked about narrative with Survivor, and they're trying to maybe push a message, and they're probably wanting to put people on there that have like that story or background too.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to get down to that list, but I think that's who would ultimately make.
Right.
Call.
I think Bobby John was only a returnee to get Stephanie back. They just had some way to justify it in Guatemala, and now they don't.
Yeah, because Guatemala, it was originally supposed to be Jonathan and Wanda, or the other option, Scoopin' or Roger. And thankfully they did not go with Scoopin' and Roger for that.
We're gonna save them for later.
I also would have been worried for Roger's health. An 11-mile hike. I'm not sure Roger's gonna do very well. Unfortunately.
Considering that all the healthy dudes literally passed out, and we're just
exactly, and then I mean, I think Jonathan and Wanda is an interesting alternate timeline there, but that's a different story. I do think I do think Bobby John is at least maybe considered, but I do agree with Shane. Maybe again, that was to only justify Stephanie coming back in here. You wouldn't have to do that because it's all stars.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to do that too. And no character assassination has happened yet, because one thing we didn't really talk about on our All-Stars video was how, we did kind of talk about how most of these people were brought back because of their perception of their character, not because of their actual gameplay. Yeah. So no character has shown any negative flaws yet. Like, so their image is still, protected at this point. So it's like Colby is still that American hero. Rupert is still that guy that he's the scraggly pirate that everybody loves. It's everyone's attitude. Jerry's still that villain for no reason. Like, it's the perception is still there from like 2003 to 2004. So it's not much has changed. And if we go off that list, I'm like, okay, like we talked about, I was like, this list has got a lot of diversity on it for like 2004. Like, we can actually make this work. And then once you start breaking them into tribes, then it starts getting crazy, because literally every single Saboga member is on this fictional season. And like 5 out of 6 Moga are there. And Chapera is the only one that's like only 2 out of the 6 are there. And then once you start breaking people up, it gets weird, because my gut is telling me they would have put Boston Rob and Sandra on a tribe, and then it would have been Dunzo at that point. Like, they would have linked. If they like each other now, they definitely would have liked each other back then.
Oh yeah.
Too. So it's like, if you put 2 winners per tribe, I think they would have put maybe Sandra and Tom on a tribe together, with like Richard and Vesepia would be on one. With, I think Tina and Ethan would probably still end up on a tribe together too.
Yeah, I think, and I think Sandra's like been on record. She loves Tom Westman. Like, I think her and Tom bond very early as well. So,
and if we're going off the fact that I somehow concocted this idea, if it's like Tom, it's Tom, Sandra, Boston Rob, I feel like Rupert would end up on there for some reason. That'd be like, like Sandra is getting along with Boston Rob, but she knows Rupert from Pearl Islands. They would rope him in to their alliance. If Jenna is on there and she tries her winner tactic, if she tries her winner tactic, Sandra's not going to have any of that, and they're going to axe her like immediately.
Oh yeah, she'll be gone fast.
With Jerry being like, oh my god, like they're gonna like those 4 are all chilling together, and I'm like basically just going with whatever they're saying.
Right.
But I feel like Rudy would be on the tribe with Tina and Ethan, and I think Amy would be on there with them, with Rob C. And I think there was somebody else there as well, unless that's already 6. Unless I'm right.
Yeah.
Maybe Kathy would be there too. But I think as soon as that tribe loses, I think they're going to vote Rudy out, because they're going to be, we need physical strength.
Yeah, I think Rudy was doomed, like, to be an early boot in All Stars.
Yeah, like kind of being set up for that. I know we're doing this like fictional world, but I had like I was literally writing this on a whiteboard, like the Charlie Day thing from It's Always Sunny, where he's just like, there's a series of this, like what they would probably do. And then after Rudy, I think if they lost again, they would probably vote Tina out, because it's like we get rid of a winner, but we still keep someone physical that could help us win. With Ethan, and the way that I was breaking all of these characters down was, I was like, it almost seems like the same exact result would happen with certain characters. I still think Colby would get eliminated early, because knowing Lex is willing to ruin a good thing and go back on it, I think at some point he would eventually, with the numbers being right, I think he would get along. He obviously would get along with Colby. If Stephanie is on their tribe, I think all three of them would get along. Colby and Sheehan would still butt heads over no reason. I think Vesepia would fly under the radar for a little bit and go with the flow. And Richard Hatch obviously does not care about being there. So they would probably get rid of him first. And then after that, I think Lex would probably like flip on Colby. And like, as soon as they lose again, he'd be like, it's a good idea to vote out my allies. And then and then do it. And then it literally happens. So as I'm creating this like tree, I feel like certain characters, like it's like the timeline where it doesn't matter what you do, they're still gonna result in the same ending, kind of thing. If the vote out happened exactly how it did on the real All Stars, like Saboga lost twice, who would go if they did a tribe switch, who would go where, kind of thing. And I actually ended up with the final two being Boston Rob and Rupert, because I feel like at some point Boston Rob would be like, he would betray Sandra, I think. And I think he would get the numbers to vote out Tom. And then Sandra would be pissed at him. And then he's like, sorry, Sandra, you got to go. And then like gets rid of her next. And then goes with Rupert. And Rupert didn't do anything. I did it all. Like, certain characters have fixed point endings. And I think he still would have figured out how to get to the end.
But does Rupert beat him? Because Rupert's like not a good game player, but likability is a factor, and if the jury is as bitter as they were the first time, done.
Boston Rob would have been like, smarten up, Sandra.
Sandra, you gotta smarten up.
If only he was like, don't have a case of crybaby-itis.
We still have never gotten Sandra on the jury, and I would have loved to see Sandra go off on someone on the jury. But the last thing I want to say before we finish this What If episode, people that I would have loved to see, even though like they wouldn't have fit with this cast. I mean, obviously Sean Rector, but if we're going from Vanuatu and Palau, Rory is someone that I love Rory as a character. I don't think Rory has ever been considered, though. I mean, I think he faded out of the Survivor scene
very quickly
after Vanuatu. And then Palau, I would say Kobe would be an option. And I actually think Greg would be a fun field option, because I think Greg from Palau, I think that Greg had a lot of strategy and a lot of like, he had a good amount of thought into the game and how he looked at the game. And I think he would have probably done well again on a return.
Absolutely. Something to ponder, which might open up a whole can here, is if they hadn't seen the original All-Stars, in my opinion, All-Stars is what really brought the game to a new like cutthroat level of strategy. If they hadn't seen that, maybe it's not playing at that level yet.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody would be playing it maybe like pretty softball or whatever, or they wouldn't do it as hard, unless like it was like, the results and gameplay were just exactly the same for like this fictional world of Vanuatu and Palau, and they didn't need any inspiration. But I had such fun with this, because it was like, I know like it's fictional and it's like what if, but it's like, who would actually they should have done that. They should have been like, they should have just waited 2 more seasons and then just be like, season 10 we're doing an All-Stars. It makes sense to do this, but it's it is what it is. But hey, if we didn't get it, then we wouldn't have gotten every other one that happened afterwards. So mean, I'll take it, I guess. I'll take it.
This was a good scenario to run through, so I'm glad you thought of it, Jonathan, and I'm glad like we were able to talk about it. Yeah, I unless you guys have anything else, I think we're good to end this one.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I think we're good.
Adios, au revoir, arrivederci, or as we say in Boston, see you later.
On the Tribe of Nerds.